Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. The following seminar is brought to you by nonprofit organization iExplore. We are dedicated to providing an extensive study and communication online platform for students around the world. At iExplore, we offer the best learning experience and help students to become productive members of society through cultural exchange and leadership inspiration. We have over 80 teachers from multiple countries and over 500 students globally. iExplore provides free online classes and seminars to allow kids to learn and explore. All of our teachers are responsible students who are passionate about science, engineering, literature, and more. In addition to this, our teachers encourage their students to harness creativity and develop critical thinking skills, allowing them to take their ideas to new heights, which is our aim here at iExplore through our innovative class curriculums. Just as important as cultivating a passion for learning and allowing students to harness their creativity is the ability for iExplore to provide volunteer opportunities for people around the world and give them the ability to make their communities a better place. iExplore allows them to share their knowledge, culture, and experience freely as teachers, students, and friends. I am honored to be introducing our seminar presenter today, Edison Sun. He will be telling us about business. As a 12th grader, he is a stellar student with many passions, among which are philosophy and business. So Edison, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks, iExplore, for having me today. Can you hear me all? Is it clear? Okay, great. So I'm sure that most people who join this lecture are interested either in majoring in business or in participating in the business case competition. So I used to teach debate and public speaking, and the case study is actually the third popular type of speaking contest or group competition, especially in Vancouver, BC, where I'm living in right now. So to give a little bit of introduction, my name is Edison from Samuel Secondary School in Surrey, BC. I'll be in grade 12 in this fall, and currently I'm enrolled in International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. And these are some QR codes. If you have any general questions about this platform and its offers, feel free to directly contact iExplore. And if you want to follow up with some business or subject-specific questions or seek personal cooperations, feel free to add me via WeChat or Instagram. All right. So personally, I've been involved in several case competitions, one from Prosper Vancouver and some from online summit program and the Warden. And the intention behind this presentation is to provide you some insights on the essential elements and techniques of a case study presentation. And I'm actually recommending those who will be studying abroad and leading English improvements, but don't like the tense atmosphere like a debate or public speaking has. So business case studies are relatively mild and collaborative, so participants don't usually find that much stress or anxiety during the competition. So now let's get into the essential elements of a case study. First off, as a normal competition routine, you'll be assigned to a group of normally 4 to 5 contestants. Within each group, you guys will be distributing work as you will present your parts in front of only the judges. So according to my experience, there will be usually 3 to 6 judges depending on the scale of the competition. And some competitions only award group prizes and nominations, but some do give individual awards. And typically, your group's opponent will be all the rest of the groups with the same case study materials. So after the materials are given, your group will have roughly about 1 hour to analyze the materials and make a PowerPoint slide or other visual aids. So let me pull up just a simple PowerPoint to give you an overall sense of it. So when my group got this assignment, which was analyzing the failures of a company's products and making modifications, so we didn't get too much time. Again, so this was not assigned by a formal competition, so bear with the contents, but the routine was pretty clear. Let's have a look. All right, so actually it was a demo. It's called Crystal Pepsi. So let's go over this. So the first one is the title page. So it actually indicates what kind of a competition you're involved in, or maybe challenge. And you say, so I did say we will be exploring the business issue of Crystal Pepsi and giving suitable advice to modify the products. And then the second page usually is an introduction page about your team and your team members' positions and your team members' photo and name tags, and then starting from the third page, you say our mission statement regarding our modified Quiz Pepsi is to try to keep a pure state, ignite your nostalgic desire, and let go of your unnecessary concerns. So the mission statement is kind of a goal, expectation, the next step you're gonna go at a broader sense. And here, the fourth slide would be the agenda. So you want to list all the table contents about what kind of routine your presentation will go through. And then the issues of the Quiz of Pepsi I did. So it's actually introduced some a little background about Quiz of Pepsi, why it was a failure, and what kind of issue that the Quiz of Pepsi encountered to make it as a failure. So I said the Quiz of Pepsi is a discontinued soft drink product manufactured by PepsiCo, and in the 1990s, it was firstly sold in Europe and later sold in US and Canada, and they re-released the new products in 2010s. And so there's a saying that it's Coca-Cola's Tab Clear that later impacted the Quiz Pepsi's market, and the various problems led to the end of both products. So as I said, we'll be deepening our insights into the issue in the following slide. So you always make a transition between the two slides. And then so the next 2 pages are about analysis, situational analysis about the issue. So to encapsulate the problems in a SWOT model, the SWOT model is usually incorporated in a business case study where you explore strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats about our issue. So I said, so based on what has been showcased, the weakness, strengths, opportunity, and threats of the issue has been shown. And you see the strengths of the Crystal Pepsi include no calories and no caffeine, and which broaden the customer base compared to the original Pepsi. The color white indicates a sense of purity and the clearness, and it corresponds to the clear craze, a business marketing fad at that time period. And then as for weaknesses, Crystal Pepsi has insufficient creativity due to less variations compared to the original Pepsi. And it has dense corn syrup, which is used to substitute sugar. And it causes nervousness among the customers because they prefer cola and dark color more, as it is a stereotypical characteristic that is difficult to remove. Also, Crystal Pepsi lacks a certain customer base compared to the original Pepsi. Although it has opportunities, for example, clear soda is generally considered healthier, and Pepsi's loyal customers can mitigate the Crystal Pepsi's lack of customer base. So threats, as for threats, they do often exist within competitions. So for instance, Coca-Cola Tab Clear has had poor performance by saying that Tab Clear is sugar-free and medicinal. And this turned out to be falsifiable and thus impacted the market of Crystal Pepsi as well. And in addition, talking about health, juice is obviously healthier than the carbonated water. And talking about the carbonated water, the original Pepsi is superior to the crystal one, either in flavor or in performance. So therefore, Tab Clear juice and normal Pepsi are threats to Crystal Pepsi. So here, so the next page is, so you want to make recommendations about how to modify the products, but before that, you want to consider what makes a good recommendation. So in our team's opinion, so a good recommendation is established when we know what we are doing and we are aware of what our customers demand, and together with the consideration of feasibility, sustainability, and appropriateness. So in the next couple of slides, we did analyze some goals modifications and introduced some sample modification that our group members have come up with. So this kind of these slides are created by my group members. They actually did come up with specific modifications, and for example, counter advertisement, physical in shop counter offensive, and yeah. So based on the kind of sense, kind of specific recommendations we can make. So we did some decision criteria to actually rate each recommendation, whether it's feasible, marketable, profitable, or overall solvable. So for the First recommendation, which is to appeal itself more to international markets. So we said, since the original Pepsi is internationally welcomed, so we may find it easy to introduce our Crystal Pepsi to other nations. And though some countries or regions don't have much Pepsi customer bases, if we successfully make Crystal Pepsi popular in certain places, both the marketability and the profitability would be considerable. And think about how many people are quotation marks addicted to Pepsi. And for second recommendation, which is to invest upon a stronger online presence, and thanks to the internet age, we believe it be very feasible and accessible to build an online platform. However, there are countless online advertisements and marketing information which may decrease the marketability of our own products. And for the last recommendation, we said take lead in the fashion or aesthetic fields among beverages by making our brand and logos unique. And this would aim to solve the problem to lack of variations. However, it's less feasible and marketable than the other two recommendations because the existence of a diversity of creative brands and logos in the world signifies a difficulty to use aesthetics to appeal to customers. But in addition, customers or reviewers are inclined to grow appreciation fatigue that allows them to ignore the creativity of one thing and only focus on the pragmatism of the products. Nevertheless, if our design successfully appeals to a tremendous number of people, the profitability would then be increased as more people prefer the product. And in this slide, so we were going to plan our fictional implementations for the year 2021. So implementations is where your presentation can distinguish your team, yourself from other teams, because many people will have very awesome and amazing recommendations, but how can you do in a feasible way, in a creative way, and in a detail? So that would make you stand out throughout the presentation. So we did actually split into 3 terms with 4 months in each term. So like January to April, May to August, and September to December. So between January and April, I said, we would most likely focus on the introduction of our new brand and logos, and the analysis of the customer profiles in different regions and nations, and investments in the research and development in order to make the product consistently creative and appealing. And between May and August, we said, instead of purely competing, partner with the prospect companies with the same goals and ideas, and penetrate advertisements of painstakingly personalized quality and new concepts. Maybe establish warehouses, maybe determine the regions where the product will be sold in 2021. And between September and December, we said we will most likely hold online workshops or webinars and perfect the online platform, improve follow-up services, and strengthen the marketing with celebrity sponsorship and monitor customer preference trends. And so you want a transition slide between your implementation and risk mitigation. So how will we address the potential flaws of the plan? So the first risk we have identified is whether or not comparative advertisements is allowed in certain countries or regions. Although most of the countries we were going to introduce our product to were civilized and modernized, meaning the probability is low, but we still need to consider how to appropriately make comparative advertisements without being implied to other local businesses. The one solution to that, one solution that still makes our product stand out without doing comparative advertisements is to cooperate with local businesses, local companies. And the second risk we identified was the negative competition online, such as an overly competitive environment, misinformation, and frame-ups. This happens frequently in areas of online business and dealing with the truthfulness and trustworthiness. So one solution to that was to show the customers how we make the products, how to use the products, and why we create the product both visually and vocally, backed by some authentic reviews or certifications from the authorities and by our loyal customer base as well. And the third risk was we identified was in the way our brands, logos, and other aesthetics are not acceptable, right? So which will detrimentally impacts the marketability and the profitability. But since more and more people today prefer pragmatism, so if our product itself tastes good or performs well, then the fashion problem can be mitigated. Nevertheless, we still need to keep an eye on the changing trends of the customer preferences, as still many people obey utilitarianism, maximizing their happiness, and your logos and brands would be the first things to notice to make them appeal. So we did actually conclude it. So kind of list all the things, compare them around. So we said we were making modifications to failed product or design, so we have to be aware of not to make the same failures again, right? That's the goal as a mission statement. And the situational analysis is the key thing to keep us and to help us determine the purposes and the goals of our products and the customers. And the better we know our customers, the better we can mitigate the risks and threats. And lastly, the implementation of our products is crucial, as well as long-term strategies can make the unforeseeable uncertainties foreseeable to manage in advance sometimes. So as you can notice, what our group was doing was to work as business consultants and give recommendations and advice. So PowerPoint is one of the popular ways to showcase your business insights and recommendations. So what you normally would include in your presentation include, but not limited to, a title page, an introduction of your consulting team, goals of your consultation, agenda, or table of contents. Just mention that for the previous 4 sectors, you can just spend less than 30 seconds to go over. And you also would include a case analysis about the company and the industry. And the analysis can be incorporated in your SWOT model, where you would explore the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the product itself or the company. And after your lucid analysis, you would state your decision criteria as that what constitutes a good recommendation that fits your criteria framework. And once you have a decision criteria, you can then list usually 3 recommendations with the consideration of their feasibility, creativity, marketability, and profitability. And later, you would like to discuss how exactly you would implement your recommendations. For this one, that's just you show the implementations chronologically, like for each quarter of the year, what will be the most likely, what will be most likely accomplished by the company. As we know that even if we have a rigorous plan or we have everything set up in our brainchild, there could also be risks that are needed to mitigate in order to minimize the loss of values. And including conclusion, the previous contents will normally be done within 8 minutes. And after your presentation, you would normally expect a 2-minute long Q&A session. Judges will ask you, for instance, where can you get the resources you need? If your implementation requires certain resources, how would you get them? Is a question about its feasibility. And here I just want to once again reconstruct the contestant's main focus during the case competition. So here I just want to, okay, so if you're competing, your major focus should be how can you and your team establish or improve the competitive edge, differentiating your company from other enterprises. So having innovative and feasible reasons to ensure that your recommendations can relate and then solve the main problem indicated in the case study provided. So one thing to add on to that, when you're constructing your logic and framework behind your thought-provoking decisions, make sure your logic works. So for example, people often say that the quality of a single product increases when its price increases. So keep in mind, it might be always true, but it's also feasible that low-price products have high qualities, vice versa. So second thing to touch on, which is about the aesthetics. So you're encouraged to design a unique theme for your PowerPoints or other visual aids. Though they don't need to be colorful because you don't want your presentation to be distracted. And just keep it clean and organized, and different styles attract different judges with distinct personalities. Some judges really prefer a formal style, while some will think a cute design will be more captivating. And third important thing to add on is that regardless whether it's recommendation, analysis, or implementation, be sure to always relate and think back to your aimed customers. Customer profiles are very, very crucial. We don't want to manufacture very good quality products when there is no customer base in the particular region when you choose where you choose to sell. And when you're analyzing your customer profiles, try to think who's your average customer and why did they buy your products. So, because obviously customers at all ages have a certain chance to necessitate a certain product, but there always exists a high profile, or we say concentration. So would it be teenagers, international students, or students in general, millennials, and so on. And there are some aspects you can dig into when you are analyzing your customer profiles. Number one, demographics. For example, customer ages, genders, income levels, jobs, social status, lifestyle, etc. Number two, purposes for buying certain products. For instance, necessity, daily essentials, entertainment, gifts, transportation, convenience, education, or self-fulfillment. So number three, why do consumers purchase those products specifically from your company? And is it because of the price, convenience, quality, brand, marketing, loyalty, or variety? So these three add-ons are pretty significant to our thought processes before creating your speeches and presentation. So I know I have talked a lot based on my formal experiences in case competitions. Now let's have a short 5-minute break. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat below. And when we come back, I would like to guide you to create a sort of hands-on practice on building your presentation. All right? Thank you for coming. Let's resume. So now what I have mentioned is deep enough for you to carry on in the case competition. And many of you may want to know what a typical competition expects you to do and in what areas do they evaluate your presentation. So let's see. Okay, let's see. Here's some external sources. Let me give them to you. So here, this slide is actually the introduction slide about the competition I've participated in. It's called Prosper Vancouver 2019, and it tells you how they evaluate your different aspects in your presentation. So for example, let's start from slide 6, and where you can see a better sense about how to analyze a case. So it said a good practice for case analysis is a 15-minute silent read. So while there will be more than 15-minute worth of information, this time constraint will motivate you to be particular with the relevant points, paying extra attention to the first and last page, where you can see a lot of essential information about data, about the customer goals and the customer profiles. And furthermore, make sure to bring a pen or highlighter to make notes on the fly. And you're following this 15-minute read and share your opinions and thought process as a team because it's a collaborative, and come up with a cohesive plan on how to tackle issues detailed in the case. And after that, everyone's free to focus on the specific portions of the slides and with the preset slide templates to avoid starting from square one. So you can choose any design from PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint, a Tableau, or other online sources. And then when you are analyzing a case, so just as I mentioned before, some parts, so it's an important aspect to be aware of. For example, events that led to the issue, for example, the tap clear encountered, and then the Crystal Pepsi actually loses customer base. So then what the case is prompting, or potential competitors say you're gonna analyze not only the business itself, also the industry. For example, Copspread. Copspread is a very major corporation, retail corporation in Canada, and it sells bread, it sells desserts, and then what kind of competitors it has. So, for example, other retail bread sellers, for example, Walmart, for example, other retails, and then you want to analyze, dig deeper into the industry and find the correlations, find similarities, and you want to, based on the similarities, you want to distinguish yourself from other companies in the same industry. Also, the consumer information, the customer profiles, the availability of the alternatives, or the financials, and the industry, as I said before. The financials is a crucial part because you want to break down your costs for your implementation, because you have a very detailed implementation. Just want to make sure that you have the proper financial base to support that. And here just the routine, how you approach throughout the presentation. And then, so here, kind of recommend you to use a SWOT analysis. So if you're using SWOT, you may get more points on that aspects. And then just kind of want to show you, I think it's a very good template how you think of how you put the recommendation in place. So you state one issue and you state one recommendation that is targeted at that issue. How do you improve the issue itself? For example, increasingly competitive online space, and the recommendation for that is the SDC fit. So SDC is a very academic word. It incorporates segments, differentiates, and customize, make your company stand out, right? And then the issue number 2, disadvantage to break in the modern stores. And the recommendation for that is pilot and roll out SDC hubs. So you can say just put it into one issue and you use the one recommendation, and then you want to study, maybe reiterate your findings and be internal and external, and explain how your recommendations address this. Just kind of people don't want to lose traces where you state that recommendation is going to improve the issue, but how does that happen, right? So you want to focus more on that, and solutions should align with the business capabilities, SWOT analysis, as well as take into account industry and situational factors. For example, consumer, competitors, and so this one is also a very cohesive template about how you put the implementation in place. For example, for each recommendation, you want to just state out how many steps you have, or what kind of steps are, and what kind of resources there are, and cost breakdown, timing, what kind of duration do you need to accomplish that kind of recommendation, the steps, and what kind of risks and mitigations. I will talk about that later in a moment. And say, for example, for recommendation number 1, you say the first step is to develop universal shoe size. So we can say, okay, it's company for the shoes, as well as retails. And then step 2, roll out online and install different presence, different platforms that expand your firm marketability. And then the resource for the step 1 is the technical footwear experts. You want some experts to authenticate what kind of a universal shoe size you want to design, and how that's going to correlate, going to benefit the customers, and or maybe provide the customers with essential information. And then you say, if I want to, invite technical footwear experts, and I want to design this kind of shoe size model, then what kind of cost I need to spend. For example, $120,000, and then the timing is 6 months. So seems a not bad plan, right? But then the risk would be system may not be accepted. That's a worst case. So you say, I design a shoe size and I want to implement that to the customers, to our customers, and then the outcome was the people don't like it, or don't prefer it, or don't accept that. So that would be the worst scenario, where you need to remodify that and cost more and spend more time on that. And the results for number 2, the second step, will be the project management to align teams. So you want to both managing the online platform and in-store platform, and the cost will be $80,000, and the approximation will be 2 years. And you want to say, usually about this kind of management plan, you want to say the risk will be the overextending resources. For example, can your company, take the responsibility and take the promise along the way, because you expand your firm as much as you can, and then while you want to maintain that expansion, can your company take the responsibility, take the role, and take the risks also, right? So I say, if the cost breakdown, this one is pretty complicated, because if possible, you want to add that to apply to support your implementations. But usually there's no such a very definite clue about whether your cost breakdown is always say is authoritative or is feasible enough to support your claims, to support your implementation, because you don't really, you know, because in the short amount of time during the presentation, you don't have much time to explain how you predict the unforeseeable uncertainties in the future. So you might, sometimes you don't have to include the cost breakdown, but it's encouraging that you do. And if you do, you want to list two charts about one's for cost and the other one is for benefits. So what kind of segments you want to cost your money on? So possibly the government payments, the relocation costs, the ancillary expenses, training costs, and plan expansion, tax implication, and you want to list in total costs you might need to spend. And the benefits would be the pipeline, the on-keeping contracts, the cost savings, and the added benefits. So these are in percentages. And I just want to introduce you one financial term. It's called the cash buffer. The cash buffer is when we say we want to consider the ratio of its average daily cash balance to its average daily cash outflows. So you want to count which duration or which period of days are cash buffer days, and you want to make adjustments in those days. And you want to say the year 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. So what kind of a growth, percentage growth you would estimate, and what kind of operating expenses you would expect. So you want to make adjustments, make modifications, and balances the cost, the benefit and the cost. And here, so this is what I usually refer to is a chart about risk and mitigations. So the judges love to see that you put the risks in different roles, and the probability, severity, and possibly profitability. And then is the mitigation. What kind of strategies you want to mitigate the risk that impacts your company future, and you want to list all the contingency plans. For example, how would you do it? It's actually the implementation of your mitigation, right? So here is, and this is one major thing about athletics. So I want to, introduce you about one thing that, you don't usually see very unique designs in PowerPoint, or maybe in the Excels, or maybe in, I should say, maybe Google Doc worksheets, maybe. And so this one software I use more often, so I'll show you. It's called Tabla. So where you have a data set, where you have your implementation, it doesn't matter if it's data, if it's information, just information in general. So let me show you. Okay, here's a Tabla. So I actually, let me show you the data source I've input. So here is the data sheet. So you get states the coronavirus tested infected death population and density, sorts of information. And you can see lots of information and data. Each states, they have different data. So now I have a sheet one. I want to make some designs about how do you present your data. Because if you're using charts, if you're using tables, they're so dull, the judges don't like it often. And let me show you. So for rows, I possibly put population or maybe states. I put states. So where is states? Yeah, states here. I put in the row, and possibly I'll put population and tested. How much people in that population, how much portion of that are tested already? And so now it's kind of bars, right? Bars are so classic. I want to change maybe this one, but this one is less visualable. Possibly this bubbles, they like bubbles. So you see, actually, the larger the circle, and the larger the population, and the darker the color, the more people have been tested already. But it doesn't mean the portion of the population in that typical state is very high. So population base is very big, but tested people in that population, the portion is very low, and you can change the design. So possibly the double bars here, maybe correlation, and squares. So you can download more dimensions, more measures, more designs, and you can analyze by adding a story. Because if you have a data, you want to support your implementation or recommendation, you want to tell a story of the data, right? So in your data class, possibly you get the data. So I import, say, this is sheets. I want to add a data story here. So I want input the sheet 1 into the story, and then you can add a story. You can foretell or maybe just explain why this situation is and is existing, or what kind of feature predictions you can make based on the data you have. And that's how you can attract your judges by your design, by the aesthetics. So that's the one thing. Just want to go back. So here, let me show you a example of a case study material you will be given at the beginning of the competition. You have 1 hour to analyze this whole thing, so it's pretty challenging, and your group members will gonna maybe distribute portions where you analyze the whole issue. But oftentimes, even you are distributed into some portions of work, but you just wanna get a better sense of the whole issue. So you definitely, each person of your group gonna finish the reading of the whole material. So this one's about Apple. See the whole lot of bibliographs in the last 2 pages and data sets you can maybe correlate and maybe relate to, and then you want to extract the last page here, about their perspectives, the company's perspectives, the company's mission statement, and the company's implementations, and possibly in the first page you're going to be aware of all the background data and who funded that, and possibly, you see here you can highlight maybe Apple stock market value moved ever closer to US $1 trillion, and then maybe you're gonna highlight offshore locations such as China and the international markets. You're gonna focus on the strategy they use to sell the products and what kind of investments they actually did on research and development. And each year they have different adjustments. So you want to just read through all of them and make predictions and make analysis usually. And I don't have much time for guiding you to how to analyze the issue here, but I just want to show you one last thing that actually, it was one of the favorite presentations that I've ever seen, and I think it's very aesthetic, it's very authentic, and it's very candid. I think they're pretty good participants. So I just want to show you. This is not my group, but I was competing with this group, but actually this group's project was pretty amazing. Let me show you here. So they were actually analyzing Cobb's bread. As I mentioned earlier, it's a very famous retail bread seller in Canada. And they actually broadcast the summary of the executives by introducing you some of the problems, some of the strategies, and they actually focus on the one major strategy. It's called click and collect. So where you can click on the phone and then you collect the products you want. And see here, so their analysis, they actually did a bunch of industry analysis, consumer analysis, and business analysis, the 3 strands, major strands, and they actually did it very well because it's very time limiting, right? But they finish it. And see here, they use SWOT model, and they use bars, different representations, and they actually did analyze each of the categories of the goods, right? For example, snacks, cheese, milk, and condiments. And let's see. So as for the business analysis, they actually did a comparison between the 2016 and 2018 by indicating that the cops needs a plan to stop SSSG from slowing. The SSSG is the same store sales growth. And just kind of using evidence and using analysis, using data, statistics to support your claim, to support your issue. And the issue would be some failures, some downsides within the industry, within the business itself. And then if you want to, let's see, want to level up, you can provide more evidence. And when you get into the custom analysis, they actually do very smart, intelligently, that they use 3 different types of customs. For example, the first tab is that you go to store and you look at selections and you pick up the products and you go to events, and then, okay, this customer is satisfactory of the business, the process that he went through. And then the second tab is you look at the selection first. It's not you go to store first, and you look at selection on the phone or on other mediums first, and then you go to store and then pick up the product you choose and the media, and then you go to the event. Okay, the selection fits matches the reality. Okay, I enjoy that. Then the third type is that you look at selection, but you go to store and you pick up a product, you go to event. Okay, selection, the pictures looks very good, but the reality is very traumatic, so I don't enjoy that. Dissatisfactory. And then you want to make transition slides about recommendation. Now you go into recommendations. So they actually list the 3 recommendations. First one is partner with local charities, and the second one is offer customs post-pay optionality, and the third one is discount items relative to peers. And they respectively analyze each of the recommendation. For example, here they compare the value alignment, community awareness, target demographic, conversion rate, customer acquisition cost, and the product exposure. They actually compared with the virtuous meal box, community partnership, and how crucial, how solvable is that, and when you can prioritize your plans and implementations to minimize the cost, the value, the loss of values, right? And here is how you analyze, dig deeper into each of the alignments, each of the categories you analyzed in the last page. So you just want to partner with a local charity to promote the Click and Collect platform and offers that offers 3 key benefits to COP spread. And then here, jumping into the second recommendation, they use a different representation like the circles, and then they actually provide a estimated the new online option, so and establish allowance for uncollected orders found and glean pickup likelihood data based on analytics. So these are the 2 very interesting points that you can make. And jumping to third recommendation, say they actually incentivize and identified all over again the issue here, and incentive to try new products and ultra fresh. So you want to invest money into the research and development, and maybe some items you can be discounted, and relative to peers would bring customers back to the platform. So you want to, all in all, the mission statement here is trying to attract new customers and maybe bring back the loyal customers before, and just maintain that kind of a custom business relationship. And then they use a transition slide to jump into the implementation. This one's pretty unique and time costing, because you want to not only include the chart, you want to show a dynamic with the arrows, with the targets, to try to show how they're going to incorporate in different quarters, right? So it's pretty dynamic, it's visualizable, and it's cohesive, and it's very clean. And this one is kind of they use a lot of representations, risk scenarios, and strategy mitigation. I just want to talk about this one. The representation that they use very clean and very unique. And they say the charity is not willing to partner, right? That one's a risk, because you want to try to reach out to local charities, but they don't really care sometimes. And then second one is customers do not pick up orders. So, for example, during the pandemic, less people want to go to store and pick up the orders. They just want to get delivery, possibly. And the third one is customers stop coming after discount. So they say, okay, I earned something, and then I got discounts, but possibly maybe the quality wasn't that good, and possibly kind of psychology part you can discuss. When they earn something, they don't want to try to keeping earning. Sometimes ethical part you can discuss, and they use medications. For example, for the first one, they select partners with a strong track record of a co-op's partnership. They look outside of traditional partners if needed. You just want to untraditional and use loyal partnerships, sponsorships if possible, right? And for the second one, they want to implement in top quartile stores first with a gradual rollout to entire network to test and experiment. And for the third one, they wanted to have a location-specific geo notifications. That's what they call, and it's what they actually explained it in 1 minute, and they push notifications and the mailing list reminders. So that was kind of follow-up service, and the customers want to see, want to experience, and just trying to attract them back, right? Different analytics you can incorporate. That's all, and let's see, go back. All right, so thanks for joining me to explore the kingdom of the business case studies. And if you have any questions, please submit in the chat below, and feel free to reach out to the platform or me after the lecture. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Edison, for giving that eye-opening seminar. I myself learned a lot about business and strategies and more. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. And there will be more seminars to come, and we look forward to seeing you in those. Those seminars will be hosted by various instructors and on various topics. And we will be posting the posters and instructions for joining those seminars later. So that's it for today. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.